Shotgun, the confident prodigy with pinpoint jabs and terrifying skill. This guide has been on the horizon for quite a while, and I fully intend to deliver after my hiatus. Shotgun has been actually a personal favorite style of mine for quite a long time now. I'd even go so far as to call it my main, since it's what I use in more competitive matches. Anyway, Shotgun is a unique style with slightly more rounded stats. Though it has some slight disjoints, its range isn't any higher than normal, and it's both good at keeping distance and closing the gap. Therefore, I consider it mostly a boxer puncher with how it's represented in UBG. Shotgun is one of the more complicated styles in regard to its gimmick, as it's one of the more recently updated styles following its rework. Beforehand, Shotgun was easily considered the worst style in the game due to how impossible it was to land its ability and how generally weak it was across the board. Now though, its weakness is mostly the fact that it suffers from some of the highest counter damage intake in the game. Counter styles like hands low or bullet can have you struggling to keep up. Despite that, your punches are very quick and hard to see coming, which can still usually give you the upper hand if you know how to land your counters. Your heavy attack will always fire from one side, and your block is only slightly worse than an average one. The base damage of the punches you do land, however, is honestly pretty crummy. Your chip and block damage won't be doing you any favors because those aren't very great either. However, your main way to deal damage is through your ability, called the speedometer, not speedometer, ironically. Pressing your ability key once it's charged, done via punches thrown, will cause a bar to appear in the bottom left of your screen. Do note that you can trigger this ability while attacking your opponent, because that's going to be very important for landing your moves. This bar will have a horizontal line floating across it, with two colored sections of the bar clearly visible. Pressing your ability button a second time will have three possible outcomes. If the white bar lands on an empty space, your ability will noticeably fail. Your ability will go back to 0% charged and nothing will happen. If the white bar lands on the dark blue space, you will fire a one-handed barrage attack. This attack, while side dashable, can rip through blocks and also deals full anti-heal akin to a heavy attack. It's easy to miss though, so if you want to get it on purpose, try using it at random when your opponent isn't ready for it. We'll get more into that later. If the white bar lands in the smallest space, the lighter blue section, your character will noticeably raise their hand into the air along with a purple arrow pointing up. This indicates you successfully leveled up into what we call Prodigy mode. Now, Prodigy mode is where the real skill starts to come in with Shotgun. In your base mode, the normal mode you have before leveling up, your heavy fires from your right side and is generally quite slower. However, in Prodigy, your heavy attack changes to firing from your left and being a way faster swing. Most of your stats actually shift a good bit when you switch to Prodigy. When you upgrade, here's what happens. Your heavy swing becomes much different, like we said. You gain a walk speed boost, letting you move around the ring quicker. You take slightly more counter damage than you do in your base mode. Your punches consume less stamina, letting you throw more than usual before running out, and you unlock the ability to double barrage, the most important aspect. The double barrage is the most crucial part of Shotgun's kit by a long shot. Because of how weak your swings generally are, it's incredibly important that you know how this move works and how to land it consistently. Essentially, the double barrage replaces the upgrade ability, but it has the same recharge condition. Once you fully charge it, pressing your ability key will have the same extra bar appear, but it will only have the smaller light blue bar in it this time. Properly connecting the white bar with the blue bar will fire the double barrage, an insanely quick, powerful move where you fire dozens of punches at once. This move will obliterate almost any block and a solid chunk of health along with it, though it doesn't deal full anti-heal. However, there's two very major factors to consider when using the barrage. When you do throw it, it is not a guaranteed hit, as the opponent can easily backdash away and cause you to completely miss it. This can be mitigated by pushing your opponent into the ropes or walls of the arena. This way, they have no way to escape the double barrage and will be forced to block it. This is why positioning is so important with Shotgun, but we'll get into that later. The other major aspect of the double barrage, as well as the smaller single barrage in base mode, is that the duration is dependent on how much stamina you have to give it. This is extremely important. While firing either barrage, your stamina will deplete to 0 regardless of how much is left. Not enough to stamina break you, but throwing a swing or dashing away will let you be hit for free. However, if you throw either attack while under half of your stamina, the barrage will therefore only be half the normal duration. If you have less than 25% of your stamina, the barrage will be incredibly short and honestly quite useless. Because of this, pushing your opponent up against a wall while you still have all of your stamina is the best possible way to secure damage. At that point, activate your ability, throw a punch or two to keep them pinned, and then fire your full double barrage for the best possible output. Of course, it's not always that simple, but that's the core gameplay of Shotgun. If you can't consistently land the double barrage, it's not unlikely you'll fall behind in damage and ultimately lose even if you didn't play that poorly. Your damage level just cannot keep up in comparison to most others. But, as you gradually play more of Shotgun, you may come to find that every piece of its kit has a use. Prodigy mode isn't a complete upgrade from base, so sometimes you'll have to choose to stay in base in order to take advantage of the one-handed barrage or so you take less counter damage against your tougher opponents. The Prodigy mode M2, however, is a very unique swing that can be great for higher level players for getting feint reads and whiff punishing. Choosing when to switch over and why is really going to depend on who you're facing. Make sure you still keep up with those double barrages. Staying in base the whole game is definitely not advisable and entirely ruins your mix-up potential. While your main mix-up is derived from the two modes you can swap between, using your barrages in different, more varied ways can also be helpful. While your ability bar is up and moving, you can still actually do everything: walk, punch, dodge, etc., etc. However, the bar only stays up and moving for about 5 seconds before it disappears, and perfect dodging will also instantly remove the bar if it's active. Despite that, using this time wisely can be a huge help, as you can chase after people with a properly timed dodge and catch them in a sudden barrage, or use the one-handed barrage at total random to secure damage and lower their block health. Now, the last major part of Shotgun's weaponry is actually in the ultimate. Being the most unique ultimate in the game along with White Ash, Shotgun requires you to perform a rhythm-based minigame after your ultimate is landed in order to deal damage. The game has 3 total songs to master, each with their own chart of arrows. Depending on how you do in this minigame, you can get 1 of 5 possible scores, each doing their own damage and playing a unique animation. D rank is obviously the worst, landing at 45% damage to the opponent on top of dealing 20% damage to yourself. While it can't kill you, it's still pretty terrible. You honestly have to be trying to get D rank to hit it though, you just have to skip the entire chart. C rank does 51% damage, just barely above the average. This is usually what you'll get if you're a total beginner at the rhythm game, so don't feel bad if you're super new. B rank is slightly higher and deals 53% damage. I personally really like the animation of this one, it's just generally clean and fun to look at. This rank has the largest window to hit, so you might find yourself getting it quite often. A rank is noticeably more difficult to get and deals 54% damage. You'll have to be super precise during the minigame to get it. S rank is essentially a perfect score. You can only afford to miss maybe 1 or 2 notes before it becomes an A rank again. It deals 55% damage, the highest possible in the game besides Iron Fist, and has easily the coolest animation out of the 5. It's important to note that the minigame you play will rise in difficulty each time you reach an A or S rank, and this difficulty never goes back down. Once you hit the hardest chart the game has to offer, you're stuck there for good. If you're completely brand new to Shotgun, the charts will be pathetically easy, but it ramps up relatively quickly once it's to where you're always hitting the best possible score. If you want to be able to practice stuff like this outside of the game, I'd recommend other rhythm games on the platform. A small tip here: since the game doesn't currently have keybind functionality for the minigame, you're stuck with WASD to hit the notes. But since you can also use the arrow keys on PC, I found using A and S as well as the up arrow and right arrow to be way more comfortable. Once you're consistently hitting S ranks, you can go back to focusing more on your gameplay. Since Prodigy mode has the faster heavy swing, you're obviously going to want to use it a lot, but it can still be dodged pretty easily. The move is an amazing feint tool and can catch even higher skilled players off guard with how quickly you can switch up your swings. Along with that, the Prodigy M2 is amazing for reading your opponent's feints with how fast it can land in the middle of their own switch up. Though this move can be tricky to land, it can prove super useful even though it doesn't deal full anti-heal. On that note of damage, a huge tip I recommend is to never use a perfect dodge for an M2 swing. Perfect dodges are a great way for you to set up strings of attacks and double barrages, and along with that, you'll charge your ability meter way faster through an M1 string. I'd only recommend throwing an M2 if they have a lot of healable health you want to get rid of. Otherwise, take any possible chance you have to move your enemy towards a wall and keeping them there. A side thing, this mechanic actually doesn't fully apply to the 2 main infighters, those being Ippo and Charge. Since both styles lack a backdash, neither of them can escape your double barrage entirely no matter where you are in the ring. This is why Shotgun is often considered to be such an infighter killer. Once you've mastered the art of positioning your opponents close to a wall to get the biggest barrage possible, you can start experimenting with using the barrage even while away from them. A technique I've developed is activating the ability during my M1 string, waiting for them to backdash, and then chasing them with a dash of my own for a sudden surprise attack. This will give you more of a window to hit them without their block up and potentially even counter them, which will let your barrage do bonus damage. This can also work for the one-handed barrage, but that barrage is much better for sudden mix-up once you've conditioned your opponent into forgetting said barrage even exists. Firing the double barrage at random is also viable, but way trickier since the section of the bar needed to trigger it is so much smaller. Furthermore, the 2 bars to upgrade and fire barrages randomize their position every time you use the move, so it's not even a matter of just memorizing timing. You have to see where it is, wait for a moment to strike, and then charge in and attack with your volley before they can figure out what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll be sitting there vulnerable with no stamina left to fight back. Speaking of which, that's another more rough part of Shotgun. Once you finish either barrage, you'll only have enough stamina to dash away or land a perfect dodge. If you get a perfect dodge, you'll have just enough of a window to let your stamina recharge a heavy attack without stamina breaking yourself. This might take a few tries to learn the timing, but it can be a great tool for securing the double barrage damage you just dealt. Be wary of feints in that situation though. You might be better off retreating if you aren't sure what they're going to do. Shotgun is definitely the more complicated when it comes to strategy, as positioning matters more to you than any other style. You'll need to keep an eye on where your opponent is at all times, and you should never let them move away from the ropes if you have them there. Use your bonus movement speed in Prodigy to bait them into whiffing before pushing an assault once they're close to the wall. This will usually give you the best opportunity for the strongest barrage since you should have all of your stamina. At the same time though, do not let them dash away from the ropes if they're aware that they're in danger. That's when you rush in and either go in for a dash barrage play or just keep them pinned with a normal swing or feint. Another quick tip here. When you're playing a shotgun, the map you're using can actually mean a lot. Some maps don't actually have very discernible ropes or walls, which can make it really hard to strategize properly. As you can see here, I used the ghoul map by mistake and ended up whiffing my barrage a few times because I genuinely didn't know where the edge was. Use maps like Infinity or Crossroads, or anything with obvious walls and corners, rather than anything too open like Final Valley, for example. You can also just use no map at all if you're really worried that can mess you up. Shotgun will generally teach you a pretty large aspect of how much spacing and positioning can matter in UBG, which is going to be important if you want to actually climb the ranks. So, overall, is shotgun actually worth using? It really depends on your method of play. If you'd rather just go violently rushing in and dealing tons of damage at once, shotgun might not be your thing. Shotgun really values a balanced level of play through a person that's able to shift between good offense and strong defense very quickly. Though the style is strong against players who want to stay right up against you, it's not invincible if you make a mistake, and the counter damage you take will be more than enough of a punishment. Though shotgun's base punches sort of lack the sting you may be looking for, the other tools it has at its disposal can be super dangerous if you know when and where to use them. It's up to you to decide when to fire your double barrage, as the less stamina you have, the weaker it will be. Taking the time to force your enemy towards a wall before pushing the offense with a full stamina bar can be disastrous for them. If you manage to land multiple M1 strings in a row, you can even attack them when they have no block to defend themselves with, and that can lead to some devastating combos of damage if you know how to hit an S rank control. Well, with this shotgun blast of a guide now complete by me, Dave Pyramid, I hope I don't see you expired on the floor next time you play. I'll catch you on the flip side, and see you next time. But wait, that's not all just yet. It's time for a shameless plug! Now that I've returned, I can proudly say that the Dave Pyramid Shoulder Pal is in stock on the Roblox store. This little guy sits perfectly on your shoulder, unintrusive and flawless. He's got the world's best outfit on that says, "I didn't know what to wear," better than any other shoulder pal you'll see. He's even got a little Wally trophy on his back. He's helpful, he's cheap, and he'll only add to your amazing look. You can find the link for him in the description down below. Or if you'd rather not buy him, you can still wear him in UBG using the avatar editor at absolutely no cost. Regardless of which choice you pick, you'll be supporting me, and that means a lot. However, if you really do want that little munchkin, I'm going to be hosting a giveaway for him as soon as this video releases to the public. Join our Discord server, also in the description, for a chance to win him along with other multiple prizes. UBG cash, lucky spins, and more. The giveaway will be up for 1 week after this video launches, so be there right now if you want a free Dave Pyramid Shoulder Pal. Also, our community is filled with a bunch of people happy to give you more advice, so it's a win-win for you all around if you join. And I'll be there too, I guess. Okay, now I'm actually done. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Let me break it down for you, Mark.